The Reality of Cybercrime, Fact versus Fiction. Moderated by Yahya Mohamed Mao, Misanto AG. With Asaf Orpani, Arkhivist. Stephen Walbroehl, Halborn. Kate Baucherel, Galia Digital. And Robert Edward Grant, Crown Sterling.
Hello.
Jay, how you doing?
Hello, everyone.
So good to be here.
Yes.
Welcome to the panel on the fact versus fiction of cybercrime. My name's Kate Baucherel. I'm a blockchain and crypto girl, but I'm also an author of cybercrime fiction. So I'm in a very odd place for this panel. It's absolutely my sweet spot.
So I'm Stephen Walbroehl, co-founder for a company called Halborn. I'm actually in the blockchain industry doing cybersecurity. We kind of sit in the middle between CeFi and DeFi, where we take traditional security testing and auditing that we do for like large banks, financial institutions, but we focus on smart contracts, decentralized technology, gaming, and we do everything from the offensive security perspective and risk assessment.
Last but not least, Yahya Mohamed Mao here. I'm honored to be moderating this panel with Kate and Stephen. I'm from Switzerland, working in the healthcare sector, but also being an author and a marketing specialist. So I do write everything which is related to technology, and I'm someone who supports a lot of technology for good. So the speech of Nick's panel was something that I found very inspiring. But today we're here actually to remind you one important thing, which is something very common that you also know. Technology excites us all. Technology helps us improving our lives, our business, everything. But there's one main fact, which is as technology develops, so do also cybercrimes. After all, cybercrimes are also based on technology. So first of all, I'm very happy, of course, to be here with Stephen, with Kate, of course. Stephen, we already started, of course, discussing a bit, and you said to me, Wait for the surprise. I will tell you later more about it. And as we announced here, as the title of the panel says, today we're here to talk about cybercrime and also to compare facts and fictions with the idea of also helping you to understand a bit more what is all about cybercrime. And this is why I'm very happy. Also, Stephen is here, who's an absolute specialist when it comes to cybersecurity. After all, the title says it all, Chief Information Security Officer. And Kate, of course, as a digital strategist, Kate has a very nice viewpoint where she will also explain to us why fiction is sometimes good to learn more about. So I would immediately head to our discussion. And Stephen, I would say let's just continue where we started. So I mean, Stephen is co-founder of Halborn. And Halborn is pretty much all for cybersecurity for blockchain. This is what I understood. So I have to admit, I'm not a blockchain expert. But from my understanding, when I hear blockchain, for me, it's like, well, it has to be safe by definition.
Yeah, so blockchain, it can be hacked, but when we talk about blockchain, it actually flips everything on its head, where usually you would rely on the responsibility to protect, have like a bank protect this network. You become the bank, where you have the private key, and the private key can be lost. It could be your own fault, and it's your responsibility for it. Now, this is when we say blockchain, the real blockchain, not like centralized finance, like Coinbase or any type of like custody that you think you're trading tokens on. This is like the real blockchain. Also, when we talk about blockchain, we have to separate smart contracts from blockchain. Smart contracts can be thought of as like the application layer in a way, and that's requires coding, application development, whether you're doing Solidity or Rust. And just like in normal traditional applications, you can have code flaws that are introduced into the smart contracts or the programs, and those can be hacked. So that's usually what we see the most is smart contract technology or any introduction of some type of centralization into blockchain. That's usually the weak parts of it. And it's a huge impacting event for anybody that's leveraging this, because usually when they are hacked, it's because the one line of code was in the wrong spot, and all of a sudden millions of dollars of liquidity are now extracted. Like if you guys have heard of the Poly network hack recently, that was code flaws and just bad architecture between a bridge. That was about like close to $900 million in liquidity drawn out. So it happens immediately. Very different than what you expect from a centralized type of situation where you have maybe a PCI credit card zone where the hacker has to then send a phishing email. Somebody clicks on it, they work their way through the network, extract out credit cards, and they can sell them on the black market. I mean, the bigger impact is regulatory and compliance more than the actual liquidity from it.
It's a good distinction there between the two, I guess, the two main ways in which you have issues with cybersecurity in blockchain, because the first one is human error. And that's, have I still got my private key? Oh dear. Or it could be something as simple as I came across an example fairly recently where someone had money stolen from their account on Coinbase. And what that was it was simply malware on their phone that popped up at the right time to put in the authorization code, and the account was drained. And that was fascinating because the first example of that was back with Visa payments, back in something like 2010. Where people were getting pop-ups to put in their verified by Visa code. So it's not actually a blockchain problem, it's a human error problem.
Exactly,
and that's an enormous part of every piece of cybersecurity. But the other side, the issue of smart contracts, that's huge now with decentralized finance.
Absolutely.
Because one slip in the code and you have a vulnerability, and because you have an immutable chain and this just runs, then the money just goes.
If it's actually, in fact, is decentralized, because a lot of smart contracts now you think they're decentralized, but really there's like one admin that has like the key for an emergency withdrawal that can, they call it the rug pull.
That is also an issue. But there is the very real thing that they discovered with the DAO hack back in 2015, when the first decentralized autonomous organization to look at investing came up with a smart contract that would define precisely the criteria for investment. And so they collected all the investors' funds and they sat and watched it all being paid out to an account where the hacker had worked out what the criteria were, and so the smart contract by default sent him all the money.
Yeah, the re-entrancy attack for that one. That was actually, the DAO hack was a failure in the governance as well, because I believe there was curators that were supposed to check all of the proposals that were put in there, so that's a different type of attack, a malicious proposal where somebody introduced a smart contract that was actually malicious, administration, governance failure, with the re-entrancy attack. So that's the thing, it's very novel. All of these vulnerabilities are new, and they're not, we discover 0 days all the time of things like, wow, I've never thought this could happen. And okay, well, we found something for the first time in the smart contract, and building a set of practices and standards to develop this the correct way is still in progress, I think, for most of it.
Absolutely. I mean, what both of you mentioned is what I found interesting is the word human failure. So it's something, when we talk about technology sounds very perfect. If you have a technology solution, it's like, okay, well, it will do the job. But of course, those who use the technology are humans at the end. And last month, I was writing an article which was about the Cybersecurity Awareness Month. So America does it every year, and this year it was for the 18th time. So just like 1 month ago, and the whole idea of this month was really raising awareness. Teaching people what cybersecurity and cybercrime is about. But can we teach people? So how do people understand where the cybercrime actually starts?
Yeah, so I think awareness, especially if you're an investor, is one of the most important things to do, because you don't know what you're getting into. I'll give a practical example, something that we see all the time that really is unbelievable and it really upsets me, is you'll have these, the ICOs, a new token that's coming out, we'll just call it the Sigma token is coming out, and there's people excited to buy it, and there's a certain release date. People actually making imitation tokens, because you can name it anything, there's no compliance control. They'll put it on something like Uniswap, And then they'll pull all of the real investors that think that they're in there, like do a Telegram channel, invite everybody to a Telegram channel. It looks legitimate, and it's actually a fake malicious token. They're putting their money in there, and then you just watch it on the blockchain. All of a sudden, okay, just wait, and then emergency withdrawal, or they pull all the funds out, and thousands of users just got scammed within minutes for something that they thought that was legitimate. It's pretty crazy. So that's kind of a social engineering mixed with vulnerability mixed with awareness together.
That's right. I mean, one of the most awful things is watching money being laundered through the blockchain because you can see it and you can't do anything about it.
Right.
But no, the awareness side's really interesting. That's kind of where I come in. I was asked to write a book about cybersecurity about 4 or 5 years ago. And it ended up being fiction. And there's a reason why it ended up like that. It's all to do with the awareness of behaviors and so on. And there's academic research going back years that shows that we learn things from fiction. I mean, I don't know about you, but I learned a lot of my basic science from Doctor Who books. I learned how to sweep the floor from reading Little House on the Prairie. And when you absorb facts from what you read, they stick in your mind, and the research actually showed that we remember things as if they're background knowledge. So if you're able to tell a really compelling story about a behavior, and that behavior is absorbed as background knowledge and habits, which are really important when you're dealing with human error in any kind of cybersecurity, then you're on a win. And it's a lot better than if you're doing it through fear factors,
right.
Very much.
Yeah, one of my things so we talk about fact versus fiction, human error is certainly one of them. Something technical, fact versus fiction. I think the question I get asked the most is about quantum computing. Will quantum computing break Bitcoin? And the fact for that is no, if you have true randomization on your seed that you're creating. And the math behind it, if you guys want to get like technical and geeky, there's a protocol called PBKDF2 and SHA-256. It's a hash function. SHA-256, think of it as flipping a coin 256 times. And how many different possibilities can you have of that? There's actually almost as many possibilities as there are atoms in the entire universe. So you can almost give every atom in the universe its own private key. So if you wanted to brute force that or try to hack that, quantum computing can't even come close. I think you would need around 300 qubits in order to do that, and the max we're at is about 70 qubits. So if they get close, then all they'll do is just make it SHA-512 or something, upgrade it.
But that's a really good example of how there's these stories have grown up about, when quantum computing arrives, everything's going to break. And of course, it isn't, but we've absorbed that because the stories are so compelling.
It's called FUD.
I mean, educating employees is one thing, of course, raising that awareness, also to prevent somehow that human failure. But how can technology then help? I mean, I can imagine that we could have, I don't know, but can be AI, can be machine learning, those famous buzzwords. Why can they not help us with also when it comes to cybersecurity?
Yeah, say that one more time. The question?
The question, my question is, we said that one way of finding a solution against cybercrime is educating your employees.
Yeah.
So reducing human error. So why or how can we include technology into our daily business to also to leverage actually cybersecurity?
Oh, definitely. So I actually teach a cybersecurity class through SANS. If you guys know SANS, they're a great education system. They do traditional security for institutions, from network security to management and compliance. So Halborn and my peers at Halborn wrote a SANS course to go through where we cover everything from development, the network consensus sides of it, and try to apply it to real life situations and make analogies to it. I think really understanding something, the way it works and the purpose behind it, and doing your own due diligence is just like how you become the bank with decentralization. You're responsible for your private key. You're also responsible to know what you're getting involved with for the technology. So do your own research. Is one thing to say. There's a lot of resources online that you can read for it, and usually just study the protocol you're getting into. Never take financial advice from your friend. Just Usually, I would say, if too many people are talking about it, then it might not be a good idea to go into it. But I'm very contrary in the way I usually invest in things anyways. But yeah, do your own research is my thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's a classic one across blockchain and crypto. Do your research on everything.
Yeah.
But it helps people understand the severity of the consequences. It's all very well trying to hammer the point home and say, there's a problem. If people don't believe you or they don't believe it's going to happen to them, they don't do anything. I think there's a great statistic, which is we all get two-factor authentication, multi-factor authentication hammered home to us. And I think Twitter has 2.3% of people have bothered to do it because they don't see it as a risk and they don't think that it's going to happen to them. And if you're able to, if the research shows that, people that really there is a risk, then you're halfway there.
Yeah, I think the only thing you can't really predict is outside influences where you're supposed to have this truly decentralized environment, it's peer-to-peer trustless, and then Elon Musk can do a tweet and all of a sudden the price goes down. It's like, oh man, now it's centralized in a different way. So, I mean, that's something you can't really do your research on, but I think, over time, that's just, small hurdles on the long-term architecture for this. But not everything is about, tokens and financial too. Blockchain, if we just talk about general blockchain, there's a lot of, tokenless systems, like IoT systems that are coming out, or voting applications. I know Nick, who just, spoke earlier, has some great solutions for that. And blockchain, it doesn't solve everything, but there is a lot of things it can replace to do things more efficiently, more securely, at scale, and provide more availability as well. So I think the technology should be embraced beyond just a way to make money off of or transact financial things peer-to-peer.
Until now we've been talking about the facts, of course. I mean, Kate already mentioned the fictions, but this is something I found very interesting when Kate first mentioned. I'm someone who trusts facts. So I read about it and it's like, okay, well, it must be true because many people are talking about it also. But it's a very interesting approach, Kate, when you say with fiction we should also learn about it. So let me ask you this way: what is not cybercrime, for example?
My cybercrime books. I was asked, as I say, to write about cybercrime in a way that people would start to change their habits and understand there was a problem. So I simply invented a cybersecurity hero who helps to fix things. So gosh, we have the first book is a cyber attack on a bank. So there is ransomware that is manipulating the banks. There is other ransomware manipulating the physical world, and then people playing off the prices together, because I figured if people don't pay ransoms, where are the criminals going to get their money from? So I've had loads of fun. I mean, I can make anything up I want. But the key is always everything I write goes back through the cybersecurity professionals, and they check it over, and some of the social engineering techniques that are used in there, even some of the scenarios for physical penetration of offices and plants, those are real examples from the world of cybersecurity. So it's enormous fun to write.
Yeah, I think a lot of the ransomware that you talked about, the payments are usually through Bitcoin or Monero. It's given a bad reputation for a lot of this, especially in the earlier days. And they always say, oh, it's cryptocurrency is only used by cyber criminals to conduct transactions. I mean, yes, it has been done before by cyber criminals, but so has cash. And I think people are now, not Monero, but Bitcoin, realize that you can actually see the transactions and you can't change it over time. They're like, actually we can track the money better this way. And if they, if the criminals do something wrong, they take the wrong steps, you can maybe extract metadata, go back in history, and now link things together. I mean, there's operations like Operation Disruptor is one of them, where they were able to take down criminal drug rings. There's child pornography rings that were discovered by tracking Bitcoin transactions down, and they could have done that with cash. Monero's a different story, but certain ones that are public ledgers actually are better for tracking transactions.
That's a really classic example, actually, of a story that's got the wrong facts in it, because when you say you absorb facts from fiction, you absorb the wrong ones as well. Yeah. And everyone says, oh yeah, but ransomware was around 15 years before Bitcoin. So you just had to wire the ransom. Bitcoin just made it slightly easier. And yeah, that's one classic of a fact that's actually incorrect. It's so easy to trace. You can take it to the real world and you can arrest the criminals. And this happens all the time.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, was that a story I would like to share with you is we had a cyber attack, or it's called a cyber attack. We weren't even sure if it was really a cyber attack. This is why I asked, what is it not? And a colleague of mine said something very that I found surprising. She said to me, well, if it happens, it happens. I can't do anything against it. So for me, she actually made a very nice comparison, saying, well, if in the city there's a pickpocket thief and that person steals my wallet, it's not my fault.
Yeah, there's now mitigating controls that are coming out to help prevent some of these things. There's actually insurance protocols now that can protect you in the event of attack, and these can be centralized insurance protocols or DAO-based ones too, to see if it's a fair or not. And so there is ways to protect yourself from that. If it's something that you're transacting with a centralized type system, usually they'll have their own regulations to comply with that or insured with it. But if you lose your key for like a private hardware wallet, I mean, there's no help desk that you can call to say, can you reset my private key for me? So there, it depends on how you transact with it, would be considered if it's recoverable or not recoverable.
Absolutely. I mean, I think I'm saying that we have 30 seconds to go. Let's share some concluding remarks. I would say a fact from you and a fiction from Kate. That would be nice to hear.
So a fact, actually, I'll say a quote. It's one of my favorite ones. So if you want to understand Bitcoin, you have fiat. Fiat is the government's money. Gold is God's money. Bitcoin is the people's money.
And I would just say cybersecurity begins with you, so develop those good habits.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Thank you for having us. Hopefully, we could raise awareness in terms of cybersecurity, and looking forward for the other panels and keynotes. Thank you very much.